Shai, do you want to try this? I got a garlic knot for you.
Oh, spicy.
Hey guys, so this is teaching my friends to cook. This is where I'm gonna show my friends how to make some of the food that I've learned how to cook. A good friend of mine, Cecily, maybe you'll see this, I don't know. I've seen you 3 times in the last 2 weeks and every single time you're eating pizza. So today I'm gonna show you how to make pizza from scratch. You've probably done it before, but you know, let's show everybody else. Let's have a good time. So yeah, we're gonna start making very simple pizza dough. This is essentially the same recipe that I used 5 days a week, full time for, I wanna say like 4 years total when I was working in pizza kitchens. So we're gonna start with flour. I know people love to be health conscientious, but wheat flour does not cut it. If you wanna do some whole wheat pizza, always do half white, half wheat. I mean, you could do whole wheat if you're like a masochist or something, but it's gonna fucking suck. So this is just white bleached flour. This is about 550 grams. If you don't own a scale, get a scale, especially for baking. A lot of these recipes will say cups and grams. You always wanna go with the weight measurement. You're gonna get a more consistent result because of differences in brands of flour or whatever dry goods you're trying to measure by volume. Also, on my buds, if you guys get scales, if you want to, like, you just find like a waist-high countertop, you put your junk on there, we can measure it. You put it in grams, measure it in grams. I got a spreadsheet going already. We'll put your weight in grams. Well, how should we do that? Yeah, we'll put your weight in grams. We'll all put $10 in the pot. Guy with the lowest weight gets the pot. Because he needs it. Anyways, 550 grams of flour going in. So I'm using a stand mixer. You don't have to use a stand mixer, but it's gonna be a pain in the ass if you mix this by hand. You can use a wooden spoon to start, and then just use a bunch of flour in your hands and then knead it by hand. This just makes it way easier. Roughly 5 grams of salt and 5 grams of sugar. This is already mixed. The sugar is what's gonna feed the yeast, and then salt for flavor, of course. This is just 2 tablespoons of oil, traditionally olive oil, but fuck tradition, we're using avocado oil, because that's what I had. 1.5 cups, what would normally be water. This is obviously not water. This is actually Seattle cider semi-sweet. So this is just gonna add a little bit more sugar, just maybe a little more flavor. I don't know, I just felt like having fun. You know, when you look up recipes for dough or yeast leavened doughs, it always says 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. And every single time I wonder, well, how much yeast is in a packet of yeast? There's exactly 2 1/4 teaspoons in this. So yeah. If you do look up a lot of like yeast leaven recipes, they'll say to put the yeast in the warm liquid for about 10 minutes or whatever, but you don't have to do that. So, put this on. We'll just let this go for, I mean, essentially the longer the better to a point. I mean, if you don't want to go, I would say more than 10 minutes would be excessive. You just want enough to get that gluten stretch. That's what's gonna give you like the chewy kind of dough. So this is a whole tray of 10 ounce dough balls that I made. This dough will stay good for, you know, I don't know, you could probably freeze it. I've never tried it, but I'm gonna say it'll stay good for a couple of days. What you don't wanna see are black spots. If you make dough and you see black spots on top, that's the dead yeast. You'll get dead yeast if you use water that's too cold. So if you see black spots, you can still use it and it tastes fine. It's just not going to, it's not gonna rise as much. We're gonna shut this off. This is perfect. What you're going for is like a supple dough. There's a lot of dough recipes that I've tried and experimented with where it's a really wet dough, and that's fine. I'm just showing what I've done before. So this dough is what I would call tacky, but not sticky. I've got, you know, barely any on my fingers. What is that? I think that was actually a piece of basil. I've been making dough. Obviously you saw I've made like 70 ounces of dough all day. On autopilot, I just started making this into a dough ball. Again, I'm not the best at this, but let me get some flour. I'm actually out of flour, so I'm just gonna use a tiny bit of potato starch. So we're gonna turn the scale on. I've also got this guy. These are probably like 6 or 10 bucks. Oh, it's actually got a ruler on it, so you can weigh your junk, and we can also measure it. So guys, pick one of these up. I'll put it on the spreadsheet. So anyways, let's see, so for like what you would call a medium pizza is usually like 14 inches, somewhere thereabouts. You do about 20 ounces of dough. I'm just gonna do like 10-inch pizzas, so I'm gonna go 10 ounces. So you can use this guy. You don't have to, you can just tear this off, but I'm gonna use this guy and just cut some of this off. Oh shit, that's in grams. There we go, now we're in ounces. 8.7, this is a really fun game where you, oh, 10 on the dot, second try, got it. Once you get your 10 ounces, this is one of those things where you just have to do it. I'm gonna show you and you can research it, but you just have to do it. Basically, this is how I hold my hands, got my fingertips underneath, and you're kind of spreading the edges underneath of this ball, right? And then you'll feel it become a little more, not dense, but compact, I guess. And that's usually when I switch over, and basically you're gonna curl the edges in to themselves, just like this. And you wanna just wanna slap it a little bit, you know, once you get it into that general ball shape, you really wanna drop it. And then what you don't want is like, so like where two pieces of dough meet, if I take this and I fold it over, if I don't press that together, those pieces of dough, they're not gonna bake right. I mean, not that it won't taste good or, you know, it's just not what it's gonna take away from the consistency of the pizza. Try and make sure you're pushing all that dough together. And then that's a 10-ounce dough ball. I think there's at least 3 of these in here. Let's do a couple more. All right, so we got 3 10-ounce dough balls from basically like, I think that would be 3 cups of flour and the liquid. It'll yield 3 individual pizzas, or you could stick these all together and probably make like a 18-inch pizza, or like a kind of thicker crust 16-inch at least. My favorite thing, besides making pizza with this dough, well, I guess 2 favorite things. You can make fry bread. I don't know if, well, you guys know what fry bread is, or at least Indian tacos, elephant ears. It's all pizza dough. It's all the same exact dough. There's no variation whatsoever. It's just how you cook it. I've already prepared some of this same dough. Holy shit. Wow, this is like a variation of that same dough recipe that I made, but I took like a whole package of like that pre-packaged fresh basil that they sell at the store. I took that and I chopped it up and I added that to it. Without trying to sound like a douchebag, this is some basil infused pizza dough. It smells pretty good. So what we're gonna do is not make a pizza with this. I'm gonna show you guys how to make garlic knots. You take it out, that one I hadn't formed. That one was just sitting in a bowl. So this isn't gonna turn out as well as one that just sat as a ball. Or at least as far as I know, I could be dead wrong on that. But essentially, you just flatten it out, you know, kind of do this with it when it's still in a ball shape. You get it down on your surface. What I'm doing here is just a little bit of that, you know? It's what she likes. So you're just sort of flattening the dough. You're not pressing with your fingertips. You're using this flat surface, and you're just gonna flatten out the edges first. What you want to do now is use your fingertips. Again, not like this. You're patting it with the pads of your fingers, rather, and you're just pressing it out, kind of feeling around where the thicker spots are, and then you can start pressing it out. Well, I'll go as if I was just making this into a pizza. So what you want to do is, you know, fold it over under your hands. This is what I'm doing with my hands when the dough is over it. Just holding it like this. The dough just goes over here. You're letting gravity do the work. You're pulling a tiny bit between your 2 hands. So that's pretty good. And I don't know if you can see that in the lighting. You can see there's a couple of thinner spots. That doesn't really matter. And then you can spin it if you want to have fun. 1, 2, just like that. Just like a little baby. Just like that. I wonder if I should. Oh no, this is getting pretty thin. Oh, see, look, I tore my crust. That's okay. It does not matter. There's no God and everything is subjective. Just gonna preheat the oven really quick. The auto set is like 415, so that's what I'm gonna set it to. It doesn't really matter. Like normally when we would make these, we would try and shape the dough into a square or a rectangle. It doesn't matter though. You can just take this random edge, you know, you have this like, I don't know what you would call that, but you're gonna use 2 fingers and you're basically just gonna wrap it around your fingers and then literally tie the dough in a knot. You can take all sorts of goofy shapes from this, and as long as you can form it, oh, that ripped a little bit. As long as you can form it correctly, you're literally just tying it in a knot. So this will make a lot of garlic knots. I mean, we've already got 8, and this is like not even a quarter of the dough, I think. And you can see these are all varying sizes. Like I said, it really doesn't matter. What we're gonna do is stick these in the oven. These are for tonight, so we're gonna par bake them. So what I'm gonna do is stick them in there at 415, I think, and I'm just gonna let them sit in there until they get kind of golden brown on the outside. You basically want them to cook all the way through, but not cook completely, if that makes any sense. Because what we're gonna do tonight is basically stick them on this same pizza tray, and we're going to reheat them in the oven, and then we're gonna toss them with a garlic oil that I'm also gonna show you how to make. This is the shit. Normally this is olive oil, but like I said, you know, hail Satan. I'm gonna use avocado oil because that's what I got. So this is maybe a cup, a little more than a cup of avocado oil, and then I tossed in some coconut oil too, because I feel like the coconut oil is gonna go well with the basil. So I've got about like 2 dozen garlic cloves, something like that. Cup and a half of oil. I'm also, because I mean, kind of a glutton, we're gonna use some ghee too, which is clarified butter, but we'll go over that. So I put a lot of garlic in there, so I'm gonna fill this to the fill line. Okay, so we just stick this on here. I think we're good. Ooh. Oh, that's some sauce. This is pretty thick. Normally it doesn't turn out this thick. I think it's because I used a lot more garlic than you normally would. I think the amount of garlic I used, you would normally put in, like normally in the restaurant, we would take that same amount of garlic, fill this with olive oil, and then blend it. So this is really heavy on the garlic, but I'm kind of nasty, so I like it. All right, so these are done enough. Just brown on the tops. Even though they're different sizes, they're all about the same height. So what we're gonna do now, we take this, oh God. Ooh. And you just put it on the garlic knots. Another reason I like butter is I feel like it's a little more viscous than the oil, not only for the richness of the flavor, but it's gonna stick to the garlic knots a little more too. People are going to poo-poo this, but I swear to God, non-refrigerated Parmesan cheese, this is I mean, unless you want to try it in a gourmet style, this is the only thing you should put on garlic knots. I know it has cellulose in it. It's not actually 100% cheese, but it's something about the texture and the flavor. But this stuff, oh my God. These are like too hot to eat. Oh, look at that, yeah. Perfect cook. Oh my God. Mmm. Shai, do you want to try this? I got a garlic knot for you. Try this.
Spicy.
Here, try it again.
It's still spicy.
It's too spicy?
Yeah.
I thought you liked spicy food.
I do still, but I only like a little bit spicy.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right, high five. Cool, well, I think we're gonna wrap it up. That concludes this episode, pizza dough, garlic knots.
Dad,
I'm trying to do my outro.
Dad, I want some of that to drink.
Some of this?
Yeah.
This is the garlic oil, buddy, smell it.
I thought it was a smoothie.
I'm gonna eat the rest of these because they're too good. Do you want any more, Shia?
Yeah.
You do?
I want some on a plate.
Oh, all right. Cool. All right, I'll see you guys later.
Can I have all of them on a plate?
No.